I'm joined now from Boya by lawyer Akbor Anyor in Congo. He's the director of the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa. Good to have you on the program once more. So we have this guy, Maurice Kamto, saying he won, even though no official results have been out. Tell me why.
I think he has announced that he won the elections because he's probably had representatives from most of the polling stations, and his representatives have sent him the results, and he believes in the results that his representatives have said. You know, the Electoral Code also makes provision, I think, in its Article 130 to the effect that immediately the elections are completed, the votes can be announced. It's true that also that it's the Constitutional Council that has the obligation, that has the right to announce the final results and to proclaim who won the elections or not. But don't what Kamto did, you look at it within the ambit of the history of this country and the fact that elections are always more often than not rigged in favor of the incumbent. And Kamto felt that it was necessary for him to announce to preempt any rigging that would take place by the incumbent. And it's unfortunate also that I think those in government, they are the ones who are crying foul. They are talking about the respect of the constitution, the respect of the electoral law. These are people who have never respected the laws of this country. I give you an example. The president of the Senate, Mr. Nyadjifeni Marcel, voted in France, in Paris. I don't believe that he registered there. I don't think that because he went for medical treatment. So did he register there, and why did they allow him to vote? They have been violating the electoral law. They've been violating
Right.
the constitution of this country. So I mean, I don't think that they have the moral authority to cry
That's
foul.
interesting. Certainly, you make a good point, right? And you talk about the history and you talk about the context. But with all of that in mind, isn't it more of a reason not to jump the gun, given how divided the country is right now? We saw security forces commit atrocities, Ambazonian separatists committing atrocities as well. There's a fever in the country right now with regards the divide between Anglophones and Francophones, right? And we have the AU saying it was a free and fair election. There are 7,000 electoral observers. With all of that in mind, don't you want it to play out and have third parties verify rather than potentially trigger conflict? Because if one side claims a win before the full count, the other side's going to become antagonistic and so forth. So maybe, is there a possibility that Kamto's being reckless here?
You see, electioneering is a process that starts with registration, that starts with the whole campaign finance, the use of public media, and culminates in voting. Electioneering is not just voting. So the observers might say the elections were free and fair. Might be the elections on the voting day, but was the process free and fair? That is another question. Yes, there is tension in the country. Yes, we have an armed struggle going on in the southern Cameroon, that is southwest and the northwest regions. Yes, we have a divided country. Yes, we have a country. Most people feel that it's time, after 36 years of dictatorship or one-man rule, it's time for Mr. Biya to gracefully surrender power to somebody else. If Kamto is the one who won the elections, then he should gracefully surrender. I understand the fact that there's tension in the country and that it would be prudent for us to wait for the Constitutional Council to announce a result before any of the candidates make such a declaration. But these things are not taken in isolation. You know, we need to look at the context in which Cameroon is situated. We need to look at the history. We need to see how the government has been manipulating public opinion. I followed the Minister of Communication on TV. Clearly, from his analysis, he indirectly said that the president, that Mr. B had also won. So I don't know why we're making a fuss out of this. We remember what happened in the 1992 elections, that Fundi clearly won the elections, but the Supreme Court, sitting for the Constitutional Council, manipulated and doctored the results, and the president of the Constitutional Supreme Court said his hands were tied, and he announced the result that Mr. Biya has won. So we have to look at what Professor Kamto did from a very holistic angle. We don't just have to say what he did to look at it in isolation. If we look at it in isolation, then we might say what he did was not right. But if we look at it from the big picture, from the history of the country, and from the way election results are
Right.
doctored, are rigged to suit the incumbent, then I mean we might think that he has a right to say what he did.
If
to do what
once
he did.
the final count comes out and Campto wins, would you be celebrating?
Well, I think everybody who likes Cameroon, everybody who is a friend of Cameroon would celebrate for us to have a new president, would celebrate new leadership, because new leadership will bring new dynamism. It would also contribute in finding a solution to the crisis affecting the Southwest and the Northwest region. It would build confidence. It would create an enabling environment whereby the internally displaced persons could return to their homes, whereby the refugees could come back. It would create an enabling environment. And I expect the new president to compensate the IDPs, to compensate the refugees, to apologize to the Southern Cameroonians for the extrajudicial killings, for the more than 1,000 of them in detention. So I think it would create a conducive environment. It would save the country from a civil war. To me, that is why I'm praying that we have a new president. I don't have any problem with Mr. Biya. I don't hate Mr. Biya personally, but I think that for those who love this country, for the sake of the unity of this country, for the sake of peace, for the sake of our brothers who have been killed, for the sake of our brothers who are in jail, for the sake of those who are in exile, for the sake of those who have been blacklisted from coming to this country, we need a change. We need a change of leadership. With that, I think we can now start a very and negotiation to solution to the crisis.
Same question, different angle. If President Biya is announced, if the incumbent is announced as the next president for his 7th term, would you accept it?
Well, I am a Democrat, okay? If it's announced that Mr. Biya won the election, I would accept it. Okay, I am not somebody who wants to circumvent the democratic process. If it's proven that Mr. Biya wins, that's the beauty of democracy. You might not like the candidate, but if the candidate wins, you have to accept the result. And if it is announced that Mr. Biya wins, and if it's proven beyond reasonable doubt that Mr. Biya wins, then we have to respect the result. We have to support the candidate, but also we have to remind the candidate, the president, that he would have to find a solution to the crisis. He would have to create an enabling environment for us to be able to find a long-lasting solution. He would have to address the 57 years of marginalization, of oppression of the people of Southern Cameroon. He would need to go beyond just working with the same zealots and extremists in his government who think that a solution can be found only through the use of force. But he would have to involve moderates in his government, those who believe that a peaceful solution, dialogue would be the panacea in resolving this crisis.
Understood. Akbar in Congo, we look forward to getting those final results, and we look forward to having you on the program again in the future. Thanks for joining us on the Newsmakers.